This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free, 1-800-610-7035. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. And our main website where you can listen to the X-Zone 724 365 is www.xzoneradiotv.com. And now you can listen to the X-Zone on your telephone, on your handheld device, simply by dialing 213-401-0080. My guest this hour is Dr. Donald Hayes, and we're going to be talking and trying to answer a question. Can holiday foods make you rust from the inside out? Well, let's check with a good doctor, because as you all know, X-Zone Nation, come the Christmas holidays and even Thanksgiving, you know, we are always munching on stuff. There's always cookies, snacks, slow-roasted ham, cups of gravy over piles of stuffing. My gosh, I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. But our guest this hour says that that's only because we have short-term memory when it comes to eating. If it tastes good, we like it. But if our bodies our bodies apparently have a much longer memory. And this is according to our guest this hour, Dr. Hayes, and his website is www.greensfirst.com, who says, we're rusting from the inside out. Tell me this isn't so, Dr. Hayes, and welcome to the show, sir.
Well, thank you, Rob. It's a pleasure to be here, and I so wished I could tell you it isn't happening, but I can't do that. Maybe 6-7 decades ago, when our diets were a little better than they are today, universally around the world, actually, we could get away with some of those items you just talked about. But with the horrendous diets that most of us do have, and then we pile this extra stuff on at holiday time, it just puts a tremendous load on the body. And why we're rusting from the inside out, I mean, I'll give a quick synopsis of this and throw it back to you if you have a question specifically. But the things that you just mentioned and many of the things that we like to eat are basically acidic foods. That means they burn when they metabolize. They metabolize down to an acidic ash. And this puts an acidic load on our blood. That signals the body into an emergency status. It knocks us basically out of a thing called homeostasis. It causes a thing called oxidative stress, and that shunts then these toxic acid fluids into fat cells, believe it or not. That causes us to get fat, helps keep us fat, and then sets us up for one of 80 different known lifestyle diseases that we'll probably die of that are not germ-related. And all that could be prevented if we just have a little knowledge and a little bit of lifestyle changing.
Does the amount of chemicals and artificial preservatives that we have in food today play havoc, and is this part of the problem we're seeing?
Oh, 100%. So when I talked about the acid load on the body, I just spoke about the metabolizing of food with oxygen causing free radicals. But these things, free radicals, these come from all kinds of things, the pollution, the chemicals, cosmetics, pesticides, polluted water, and even stress. So no, everything contributes to the problem, but certainly the food is something we do every day, all day long.
I'll tell you something. I don't know anyone in today's society who is involved in business of one way or another who isn't under a lot of stress.
Oh, it's unbelievable. When I use the term oxidative stress, basically all types of stress boils down to this thing. We can talk more about what oxidative stress is, but no, in this society today, whether it's chemical, emotional, or even injury, structural, physical stress, they all go down to the same thing. But you're right. In today's society, it's a stress-ridden world.
So where do we start to correct the bad habits that we have, Doctor?
Well, the big thing that we're trying to do, actually, if we break this down, and because we put all the stress in the same basket as it should be, because really what happens here, when we said rusting from the inside out, the analogy could be just like iron. If you took iron and put it outside and into oxygen, that'll rust iron.
That's right.
And metabolizing food, for instance, and these extra stresses, oxygen is a very important part, obviously, of us being able to stay alive. But when oxygen mixes with food in the metabolization process, and the same oxygen can be for people that overtrain, too much overtraining. But let's just take the food at this point.
All right, why don't we just have a bit of a cliffhanger? We have to take our first commercial break, Doctor. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Exonation, my guest this hour is Dr. Donald Hayes. He's the author of E-Myth Nutritionist, and his website is www.greensfirst.com. That's greens, plural, first.com. And Dr. Hayes and I will be back on the other side of this 2-minute commercial break as we continue here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada.
Nita Hickok is an expert in exorcisms, psychic warfare, soul healing, angelology, soul retrieval, demonology, energy healing, long-distance healing, astral healing, and much more. Nita is an interfaith minister because she believes all gods and goddesses are valid and that they are part of one divine force that is incomprehensible to us who are incarnated upon this earth. Nita has been doing astral healing, distant healing, spirit release, exorcism, house cleansing and blessings, soul restoring and revival, psychic vampire removal and curse removal, and much more for over 40 years. For more information or to contact Nita Hickok, visit her website at www.astralhealer.com. That's www.astralhealer.com.
Do you think you have energy problems in your home? Do you feel better when you're away than when you're home? Joey Korn is a global leader in the world of dowsing who specializes in personal energy clearing and space clearing. He can help you create an ideal energy environment in your home no matter where you live in the world. Learn about his remote spiritual house cleaning services and much more at www.dowsers.com. You can get Joey's book, Dowsing, A Path to Enlightenment, as well as other dowsing books and tools, Kabbalah books, and Walter Russell books. Joey's work is really amazing. Go to dowsers.com right now. That's DOWSERS.com or call 1-877-DOWSING. That's 1-877-369-7464. Exonation, Dr. Donald Hayes is our special guest. His website is www.greensfirst.com, and he's the author of E-Myth Nutritionist. And, Doctor, welcome back. This must be a very busy season for you. You know, you've got Thanksgiving, you've got Christmas, and then you've got New Year's Eve, and bang, the next thing you know, it's Valentine's Day and then St. Patrick's Day. My goodness, you must be busy all the time.
Well, it seems to be that way. It's a year-round process for sure. All
right, so here we are, you know, like we were talking about our diets and how bad they are, and you know, the amount of stress that we're all under, how everything adds together to this, I would imagine, toxic chemical formula that we're putting in our bodies all the time. So how do we turn it around, Doctor?
Well, I'll tell you how we can begin to turn it around. The first thing is just a little bit more understanding as to what happens here and how it all goes. Because what we got to talk about is a thing called a free radical. When you and how they're formed, that is the concept of oxidative stress. When you have these free radicals form in the body from eating too much acidic food, being under stress, the toxins that come in from cosmetics, etc., free radicals are unstable molecules. That means they don't have an electron on the outside shell there. And not to get too technical about that, they're seeking stability. So when they run into a healthy cell, like a cell membrane, and whatever they bump into, they steal the electron from that. And when they steal the electron from that, then that next molecule is unstable, and it causes a chain reaction that can literally rip through the cell and cause cellular damage. And this is called, really, the free radical theory of aging. It was proposed in the 50s. It's no longer a theory. It's what causes chronic disease, and it causes all types of that. In fact, it's been said that it may be the biggest advance in science since the discovery of the germs, this free radical theory of aging and disease. So what can we do to be able to stabilize these free radicals that are created in our body? Well, what has been shown to be most effective is a thing called an antioxidant, because we just talked about oxidative stress.
Yeah.
So the anti of that is antioxidants, and I'm sure your listeners and all of us know what those are.
You know, if acidity is a problem, why couldn't we just take something that would neutralize the acid?
Well, it would sound like that's a good idea, and in some cases it could be. You could tell me a suggestion of what they do. I've had some people get so obviously saying, like, why not baking soda? Well, you just can't take baking soda into the body. It can be very damaging in quantities. What you need to do is you got to give the body what it recognizes, and typically what it recognizes is food, real food, not the synthetic food and not the things that are out there. We certainly got to eliminate the possibility in the process of adding poisons and to our system and polluted waters and things that we're dealing with all the time. But the word antioxidant, you know, is important. So where do they come from? We know we've heard of vitamins and we've heard of minerals, and much of the studies are saying that those are not as effective as, guess what, whole food. And when you go down the food chain, Rob, when you check the food chain, unfortunately, all the things that we like to eat burn to an acidic ash. I mean, pretty much everything you think of, the dairies, the animal byproducts, the sugars, the colas, everything that we pretty much like in our diet burns to an acid ash. And the only thing in the food chain that really burns to an alkaline ash that will help neutralize that are fruits and vegetables, the things that we eat very little of, but we are told by all governments that we need to eat more of. Fruits and vegetables are phytonutrients that provide an overabundant amount of antioxidants naturally, so that at the cellular level, they neutralize the free radical, and guess what? They put out the fire of inflammation, and they prevent all these diseases.
Well, as a species, are we human beings more vegetarian than we are carnivore?
Well, I would have to, you know, everybody's going to have their opinion on that. Certainly if you go back to, you know, the original ancestor all the way back, they talk about how they would be meat-eating people. But the point is, they didn't get much. It's from what my readings are, they didn't. It was a lucky thing when they found some. They couldn't refrigerate and keep it, so it would be very, very rare that they would eat much animal products. So they did eat a lot of nuts and seeds and vegetables. Certainly, that was the way it's laid out. So you don't have to be a vegan. You don't have to be a vegetarian today to get a plethora of abundance of fruits and vegetables. But you do need to do more than what the average person does. I mean, we're told in the United States you need 7 to 13 servings. Most studies say the average American gets somewhere around less than 1, and sadly, children get less than that.
And I must tell you, X-Zone Nation, we're talking about vegetables here. This does not mean you run to the local hamburger joint and get yourself all the French fries you can eat because potatoes are vegetables. It doesn't work that way. And
no.
you know, I make light of this, but I've seen this in practice where people say, "Oh yeah, I'm eating a lot of vegetables. I had I had French fries with my Big Mac, or I had onion rings," and you just stand there and shake your head and say, "Okay, you had that in what was cooked on top of it, and what kind of fats was it cooked in?" And well, they say, "Well, what's the difference?" People are really ignorant when it comes to what they put in their body.
They are, and I don't know whose fault that is. Maybe it is even our fault as a culture, because we don't teach this. We don't even teach it in the beginning 8 years of, in grade school.
Mm-hmm.
But they are ignorant to it. They think French fries and ketchup are vegetables, and sadly they're not. There are ways to test for this. I mean, certainly not getting to the end of the life expectancy where you have one of the 80-plus chronic diseases that are preventable. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's been said that 75% of all chronic diseases are preventable. Now, that's an awful lot there, Rob, that if we understand and are educated what we can do, and it isn't that you have to become a vegetarian, but what we need to know we can measure. We can do things as similar as just take blood out of an arm, and when you go to a doctor and get a lab test, a test called C-reactive protein is an inflammatory marker, and it's very indicative of how much inflammation you have in your body. And inflammation is a total indication and direction of how much free radicals you have. So it can be measured way before you get to the point of having the problem. But we don't do that. We don't know that. We wait to the end, and then we decide to see if we can fix it at the end. And it's way too late to get caught up sometimes.
Well, you know this as a fact, Doc, and I know this for a fact. We take better care of our cars than we do our bodies.
100%.
Yeah.
And, along that same analogy, we talk about genetics because we want to say, well, I have good genes. My dad lived this long, I will too, or I have bad genes, I won't. They have found out through epigenetic studies that genetics play a very small amount, not like we used to think. In other words, it's what washes over the genes during your lifetime. It is your lifestyle things that you do to the genes. And I guess the car analogy would be like you could have a Rolls-Royce or a Volkswagen, and you might say the Rolls-Royce has better genes. But the truth is you can beat the Rolls-Royce up and keep the Volkswagen in good shape, and it lives longer.
Exactly.
So it's not that. It's what you do, and it's just a matter of education. And I'll be glad to go into a little simpler test than, let's say, C-reactive protein that people can do that can monitor where they're at.
I remember when I was going to school many years ago that we every second or third day, I think it was Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we had health class where we were taught the different food groups. We were taught about personal hygiene. We were taught about, society in general. Kids aren't taught that anymore.
No, I don't know why, but it's the same in the United States. We had health classes. We also probably don't know how many generations we need to go back, but, we had different types of food and different types of cooking, and we had mothers and grandmothers that, that did things differently. It's not processed. It wasn't rushed down to the burger place. But it's all changed. And so we have to arm ourselves with some knowledge today. And I guess the biggest motivator should be the fact that you don't want one of those 80-plus chronic diseases that are preventable. Yeah. And we need to think about that early on.
I think one of the best motivators is you don't want to die.
Yeah, or you don't want to be hooked to a machine. Most people that I've talked to for the last 5 years and not really live. So anything we can do to prevent chronic disease or chronic breakdown of the body so that we can enjoy life to the very end is very helpful. And it's a matter of just really lifestyle choices and eating fruits and vegetables. I mean, every government on the planet is telling all of us how many we should eat. Yeah. And it's not because they're in the produce business. They've got this overwhelming amount of research that clearly shows that if you eat phytonutrients, phyto meaning food nutrients, not a vitamin C tablet, let's say, we're talking the real food stuff here, that boils down to antioxidants, and at the cellular level, it puts out the free radical, and it prevents that disease from happening. So people get confused. They think maybe a multiple vitamin, take that. It's got some vitamin C in it. That's an antioxidant. So guess what? I can then eat what I want. But it doesn't work that way because a vitamin C vitamin is not the same as a phytonutrient C.
Listen, now let me ask you this, Doctor. I think I know the answer, but I'd like you to tell the Exo Nation, how important is exercise?
Well, exercise is vitally important.
Yeah.
It's clearly very, very important, but it's all in perspective, because if you over-exercise and you undernourish, and typically you've been to the gyms and we've seen people that are either pear-shaped or apple-shaped, and you see them working tremendously hard, and maybe 3 months later they're a smaller apple or a smaller pear,
right.
But they haven't really done anything. Many cases, what they're doing with breathing in that extra oxygen and working too hard and not eating properly is they're actually hastening the process of free radicals. And so there is a proper way to exercise. But, my 20 years of private practice, it doesn't take rocket science. I mean, we'd go in to do a consultation with a patient, I would, and if I found a person that was overweight or certainly obese, and in the United States it's something like more than two-thirds, almost 70%, 50% of children. When I look at that person, I see they're clearly overweight or obese. I know they're acidic, because acid is always stored in fat cells. The body has to get it out of the blood. It must not be in the blood for a thing called pH balance. So the body does the only thing it knows to do to survive itself. It shunts the acidic toxins into fat cells. Thus they get large. So when I sit there and look at someone, and the first thing they say before they even tell me their condition, I see what they are. So I know that they're acidic. And they may sit and try to convince me that they're eating, alkaline foods. Right. But clearly what you see demonstrates they're not. So
exactly.
It's a matter of how do we communicate that, Rob, without offending them, and also to get to the point that there's not a medication typically made that's going to offset what they're doing to themselves.
All right, Doctor, stand by. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Exo Nation, Dr. Donald Hayes is our special guest. He's the author of E-Myth Nutritionist, www.greensfirst.com. That's www.greensfirst.com. And the good doctor and I return on the other side of the news. Don't go away. What if someone told you you could live to be 120? Would you believe him? What if he told you the Bible guaranteed it? All you needed to do was follow his rules and buy his products. Would you do it? What if you invested 20 years of your life in him? What if he tested his substances on your child? What if your child became brain damaged as a result? Meet Dr. Tyler Belknap, a fast-talking Texas admin turned health guru. At the helm of a vast health food and supplement empire, he has established himself as the authority on nutrition and longevity. But what his followers don't know is that his products are laced with bizarre psychoactive substances from genetically modified plants developed in his very own secret lab. No wonder his customers can't stop using them. Tyler Belknap will stop at nothing to keep his edge in the market, even if it means experimenting on children. Chasing 120, a story of food, faith, fraud, and the pursuit of longevity, a novel from the pen of political cartoonist Monty Wolverton, is an easy and entertaining read full of rich characters and intrigue. It hits home in a world filled with all kind of hucksterism and offers a glimpse of what can happen when GMO technology falls into the wrong hands. Chasing 120 by Monty Wolverton. Get your copy today at www.ptm.org/120 or on Amazon.com. The ability to access the knowledge of the universe is much easier for us to access than we may believe. Brad Johnson, conscious matrix communicator, is one of these unique individuals who is able to access a strong connection to the universal mind. Through his connection, Brad has assisted thousands of clients from all over the world through natural intuitive assistance. The intuitive information received is vast, covering a wide range of subjects. Brad's innate ability includes being able to access one's own universal matrix to help them realize their potential to create a life of profound greatness. One-on-one private sessions with Brad Johnson are available to anyone from around the world. Brad is also a proficiently trained psychic, Akashic Records reader, an online spiritual teacher, founder of his own unique and powerful healing system, Body Regeneration Healing, as well as a professional conscious channeler in communication with his own higher self-consciousness known as Adronis. For more information or to book a service appointment with Brad Johnson, visit his website at www.consciousmatrix.com. That's www.consciousmatrix.com. Welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. Dr. Donald Hayes is our special guest. His website is www.greensfirst.com, and he's the author of E-Myth Nutritionist. I love the title of that book. Tell me about it.
Well, it is a book that I co-wrote with Michael Gerber. Michael Gerber is a New York Times and Wall Street Journal best-selling author. And I've used a lot of the E-Myth information. E-Myth stands for Entrepreneurial Myth, and basically, Rob, what it stands for, I mean, back 40 years ago now almost, that Gerber wrote his first book just called The E-Myth, was that, use an analogy like plumbing, you could go to school and be a plumber and be a world-class plumber, and you thought that qualified you then to be able to open up a plumbing business. And Gerber proved that there's two different things between having technical skills in plumbing and being able to open a plumbing business.
Yeah.
So I used a lot of his principles in private practice, believe it or not, because the same thing held true for me, having almost 16 years of postgraduate education.
My goodness.
I knew an awful lot about nutrition. I knew an awful lot about my specialty, but I didn't know how to maybe put it together so I could help more patients. So I used it, and then it went full circle, and Gerber contacted me. He's 77 years old and said, we need to do something about the nutritional world out there. Would you like to co-author with me? Because the same thing, healthcare providers today know a lot about nutrition, but they're not sure how to apply it in their practice. And they need to know that, Rob, if they're going to do a good job.
So how do we apply it in everyday life, Doctor? How do we get the kids to understand garbage in, garbage out? You know, if you want to get your engine to peak performance, you have to fine tune it to make sure that the engine gets the right kind of fuel. The same applies to the body. So how do we get this across to the kids of today?
That is an excellent question, and that really is the challenge. And it starts this way. I've written a number of other books. One of them called Alkalize Now-pH Balancing. Just as a quick understanding for your listeners, every fluid in our bodies can be measured, and every fluid in our body needs to be slightly alkaline. Now, take a scale from 0 to 14. 7 is neutral. Above 7, if the fluid measures above 7, pH 7, it's alkaline. Below 7, it's acidic. And every fluid, with the exception of stomach acid, has to be slightly alkaline. The blood, for instance, must be 7.35, 7.45. Now, it's only going to be measured if we take blood out of your arm. But the point is, it must be there, and it needs to stay there. But other things that correlate with that would be like saliva. So we can do and test saliva. We can take saliva in a spoon, dip a piece of litmus paper in it, match it up to a color wheel, and we have a number that we need to see that we hit. And if we don't hit that number, Rob, there's no more reason for you to tell me you're eating lots of fruits and vegetables because your body chemistry says differently. Yeah. And that's one simple, non-invasive, inexpensive test. This litmus paper is sold in every pharmacy. It's not expensive. The color wheels are right there. It's self-explanatory, but you were never taught it in school. You were never understanding that. And a lot of doctors don't find it to be that exciting, so they go for the heavier tests. But this is not a parlor game. This is real bona fide science. In fact, I would point to actually Canada, the Department of Medicine at the University of Montreal. I guess it's the United States equivalent to the Canadian Institutes of Health. They were looking for a non-invasive way to measure inflammation because of diabetes. You know, that's a major, major problem with obese people, right, and throughout the world. And so they were trying everything, correlating everything, and lo and behold, they correlated finally saliva pH. And they found out absolutely convincingly, and they published it in a diabetes journal, that if you measure your saliva and you cannot get a 7.2, then you have a deficiency of the amount of a hormone called adiponectin in your body. It's a hormone made in your fat cells. And when you don't have enough, then guess what? You're overweight, you're inflamed, you're much more likely to get diabetes. And how do you fix that? Back to the same thing. More fruits and vegetables for phytonutrients. So there's a simple, non-invasive way to measure this. And so it would take a mother, for instance, if you asked any mother if she's getting 7 to 10 to 13 servings of fruits and vegetables in her child a day, I think you know her honest answer to you, too,
Sure.
Is no, they're not. So how do we do that? That would be the next question. What's a very easy way to do that? And I can give the answer. I was just throwing it back to you if you need to
well, sure.
follow up on that.
What I would do is make sure that number one, salads. Number two, make them fruits and vegetables that they like. They don't have to like everything, but if they like one type of vegetable, and then use your culinary imagination to make variant dishes using more fruits and vegetables. Like, it's not rocket science.
It really isn't rocket science, and the United States government is trying, I'm sure, like the Canadian government, every other government across the world, because they're trying to put a limit on this. But what they used to say 5 a day, eat 5 servings a day, and then they went up to 7. And now the big thing in the United States at choosemyplate.gov is that 50% of your plate 3 times a day need to be fruits and vegetables. Well, give me a break. I mean, they don't put anything on their plate once a day, let alone half my plate is going to be fruits and vegetables 3 times a day. It's a difficult process. One of the things I found that works very simply, again, it's not as simple as a vitamin pill. Vitamins are not the same. There was a study done at Cornell University where they took an apple and they wanted to see how much vitamin C was in the apple. So they just broke it down and distilled it down, and they found out that less than 1% of an apple is vitamin C. But they found out that 99% of that apple, 99% the remaining had phytonutrient-like vitamin C qualities, leading them to say, listen, Rob, you're better off eating the apple 100 times better than taking ascorbic acid. So I don't want your listeners to think the answer is in a vitamin pill, because it's not. So if you could go out and find a whole food supplement, if you could find a fruit and vegetable powdered supplement, make sure that it's sweetened properly. You can ruin these things by putting the wrong kinds of sweetener in it, but it has to be palatable. Where typically a scoop of these things are somewhere between as high as 10 to 15 servings of fruits and vegetables in a scoop. It can be mixed in water. It can be stirred into applesauce. For heaven's sakes, it could be made into a fruit pop.
Sure.
Not the world's best, but it could be done. But the key is what? We're trying to look to get the amount of fruits and vegetables, what they call the antioxidant protection, into the body. Because it is hard to sit down a child and say you're going to eat Brussels sprouts. It just doesn't happen, not usually.
Well, you see, when I was a kid, we ate a lot of vegetables. I would say that 3/4 of our plate was vegetables.
Yeah.
And the same thing when my children were small. 3/4 of the plate are vegetables. Like, we understand that vegetables are very important. We always have fruit in the house. If you're hungry and it's between meals, eat a banana, take an orange, eat an apple, take some strawberries. We always have that in the house. We don't have candy.
Well, your percentage is really kind of right on. I like the 80-20 rule, if it's nothing more than the Pareto law concept, but 80-20. I try to say the same thing. 50% of your plate is the government's way of being as conservative as they can. But really, if you could, on a holiday, one of these holiday buffets, if you could just think of loading that plate with lettuce, with some vegetables, with some tomatoes, with some various things, and it's not that you don't have to have your favorite animal products, your dairy and or your meats, but make those more condiments, make them side dishes. Just start that process and realize it. But I guess you got to keep a goal in mind. What is the goal that you want to achieve? You really don't want to get down the road here with chronic diseases. I mean, when you can say 75% to 80% of all diseases that the world suffers from are preventable, what is the prevention? It is really starting with lifestyle. And in many cases, they can even be reversed. Diabetes can be reversed if it's not too far gone. But, once there's limitation of matter and damage there. But you're right. That's why generations past, it was there. But look at the generations come up. I heard a very sobering quote the other day, and I believe it's true, where they said that this may be the first generation of children to have shorter life expectancy than their parents.
Wow.
Because kids today are tragically overweight. I mean, I think it's saying 1 in 3 children are obese.
Yeah.
1 in 3 children today will develop diabetes in their lifetime.
Well, that's
more than 25% of...
That's because we're a fast food society.
Oh, that's all we are, Rob. We think that's where it works. It's estimated that more than 25% of our children take prescription drugs on a regular basis, and I was told that the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that children as young as 8 can be treated with cholesterol-lowering statin drugs. Now, why would they do that? Because they need them, because they're obese.
Because the parents because a lot of the responsibility has to go on the shoulders of the parents. Because parents,
100%.
The majority of parents today are either very lazy or they're just overworked. There's no happy medium. Like when we were kids, and I'm sure it was the same with you, Don, we'd sit down for breakfast, we'd sit down for lunch, and we'd sit down for supper. Supper was the biggie because Mom, Dad, and all the rest of your brothers and sisters were around the table. We took time to communicate. We took time to eat our supper. Mom or Grandma made sure that you had the right kind of foods going into you, and God help you if you were caught eating junk between meals. But today, Mom and Dad are too busy texting or too busy working, or they're doing something else instead of being parents. Now, I don't know if that's the way it is all over the place, but from where I sit and the people that I see, during my course of the day, going wherever I go, there's no more unity, and I believe that it's the body, mind, and spirit combined that makes things work. I don't think that one without the other will lead to a success in anything. But we need to keep our kids in line. We need to make sure they're eating the right foods. We need to make sure they're getting the right amount of sleep, for goodness sake. Kids, I'll get off my soapbox.
No, you're on the right soapbox, and you're on mine, and you're on the one that really is what's going to make a difference in this world health-wise, because obviously chronic diseases that they say are preventable are bankrupting the world, and we haven't even touched on the suffering and pain and problems in the family when these occur.
Oh gosh!
But no, you're absolutely right. It's different society today. Getting the message out, saying that it is preventable, and knowing how much of it is food related. I mean, you asked about exercise. Of course, that plays a part. But the truth is, you exercise when you exercise, but you can't exercise away, obviously a bad lifestyle.
That's right.
And that's what I think a lot of people are trying to do, Rob. They're trying to overcompensate by thinking the exercise will do away with the fast food meals instead of sitting down. And it is body, mind, and spirit. I mean, it's all tied together.
It's pretty bad when you've got drive-through coffee shops, you have drive-through banks, drive-through pharmacies, drive-through funeral parlors. Like, come on.
That one I didn't know you had, but I doesn't surprise me.
There are drive-through funeral parlors.
Oh my goodness.
They put the dearly departed in a big bay window, and you know how you drive through the bank, see the teller?
Right.
Well, that's when they had tellers instead of the ATMs. You drive by, you sit there for a few seconds, pay your respects, and drive on.
It's amazing how, and I don't think that's going to that drive-through culture applied to food. I mean, I don't consider myself anything special other than I have the knowledge and education and information and the desire to eat the way I do. And I raised our only daughter, or my wife and I did, a certain way, and now we have a grandson who's 3 years old, and he's being raised the way that we raised her, and she's raising him. And frankly, he sits and eats fruits and vegetables of all kinds and all colors, because that's what he was told to do, and that's what he likes, and he likes them. So it isn't like we're made genetically to not like those things.
Of course not.
But Rob, it's like what you said. If the baby comes to the house and the baby's fed snack foods and colas, I'll give you an example of how damaging these things are, because I got told as a doctor many times, oh, listen, I do eat a lot of this stuff, and I only have a couple colas, I only have a little bit of meat, only a little bit of sugar, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Medical physiologists tell us, Rob, that there's a ratio called 20 to 1. What I mean by that, or they mean by that, is that if you drink an 8-ounce glass of cola, pH 2, and remember that scale is 0 to 14, below 7 is acidic, so pH 2 is very acidic. You drink an 8-ounce glass of cola, pH 2, very acidic. It takes 20 8-ounce glasses of water, pH 7, to neutralize one 8-ounce glass of cola.
Oh, my gosh.
To neutralize it. So I only have a couple colas, I only have a little meat, I only have a little sugar, I only have a little this, I only have a little stress. You can't get there from here unless we start throwing some alkalinity on top of it. And there are 6 things that really I think you need to do to help make this work. But I can go into those whenever you want, but I wanted to make sure that we're on time.
All right, we've got to take our final break for this hour. Great having you with us, Dr. Hayes. I appreciate your time, sir. Exonation, Dr. Donald Hayes is our very special guest. Visit his website, www.greensfirst.com. That's www.greensfirst.com. And he is the co-author of E-Myth Nutritionists. And Mr. Gerber, if you're listening, I apologize for not mentioning you before. We'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't forget, you can always listen to the X Zone at www.xzoneradiotv.com. It's available there 7/24/365. Or you can call in 213-401-0080 and listen to the show on your telephone, on your cell phone, on your iPad, you name it. We're available right around the world. We'll be back. Don't go away. Hi, this is Rob McConnell, just letting you know that the X-Chronicles newspaper is now available online at www.xzonebookclub.com. All past editions and current editions of the X-Chronicles newspaper are available for 99 cents. That's www.xzonebookclub.com, and that's 99 cents U.S. per edition. And don't forget, the X-Zone store is now open as well for all of your X-Zone Nation merchandise. www.thexzonestore.com. With each new extreme weather event or terrorist act, it becomes increasingly obvious that we live in uncertain and challenging times. We all buy car insurance. Why not collapse and catastrophe insurance? Matthew Stein, an MIT-trained engineer and green builder, has written 2 outstanding books to help people prepare, plan for, and deal with everything from minor situations lasting a few days to full-on collapse. Matt's first book, When Technology Fails, is a manual for self-reliance, sustainable living, and surviving the long emergency. This massive book covers the gamut from first aid and emergency preparedness to alternative healing, renewable energy, primitive living skills, and 18th century technologies that could be critical to your comfort and survival in a long-lasting crisis. Matt's second book, When Disaster Strikes, is a comprehensive emergency preparedness handbook and survival guide. When Disaster Strikes is an essential item for every family's go bag. Both books are available at all usual sources, There's a wealth of totally free information posted at whentechfails.com, and author-signed copies may be purchased at mattstein.com. That's www.whentechfails.com and www.mattstein.com.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Exonation, Dr. Donald Hayes is our guest this hour. It's been a very interesting hour. www.greensfirst.com, and that's GREENSFIRST.com is the website. He's the co-author of E-Myth Nutritionist. And doctor, what about breads? What about grains?
Well, there are some grains that are certainly alkaline in nature. There are other grains out there, obviously, that can cause celiac disease. So it's a matter of doing your due diligence and checking and finding out which ones we want. I think as a culture, we probably eat far too many. I think, as you would guess from me, I would prefer that you would use all those other types of foods, the dairies, the animal byproducts, and even the grains, in moderation, very small amounts. Doesn't mean you don't have to do them. And pile on the fruits and vegetables. The darker the green, the better. The more brightly colored the fruit, the better. And any way you can get it in you. Anything you want, a smoothie, a Vitamix type blended, a powdered product. But get them in you, because that's what will distill down to the cellular level and help put out the fire. And for your listeners, to find out if they think they're alkaline enough, because you can't be too alkaline. Certainly you can, but you'll not find anybody. I've not found anybody that's over alkaline. You can just go to a pharmacy, or actually we even have a little small kit that we will give your listeners if they want to go to greensfirst.com /radio and fill that out. We'll send them a little pH test kit. And it's a simple process. Just put some saliva in a spoon, dip the goldenrod paper into it, hold it up in 20 seconds to the color wheel, and find out if you can turn the paper green.
Wow.
And that would mean you're going to get a 7 or 7.2 color. If you can't, Rob, then I'll give you 6 things that you got to start doing right away, because we got to get the paper green, because that's an indication that you're alkaline enough, or an indication you're very acidic and trouble's around the corner. So what I would like you to do is this.
Okay.
If you're ready for that.
We've got 1 minute.
Okay. I want you to consume more whole foods, less processed foods, manage your stress, get adequate sleep, exercise, drink plenty of good, clean water, and then practice prevention. And in that means fruits and vegetables.
What's your final message for the X-Zone Nation tonight, Doctor?
My final message is, let's live a long, long, long healthy life, and you do that one way and one way only. Take care of your body. You be in charge of your own health. When you're in charge of your own health, you're assured of one thing. You've got an interest to do it, and you got a good reason to do it, because you're going to be the one that's going to get the benefit from doing that. So take care of yourself. It's take care of your own health, and that's a good message.
Doctor, to you, your family, your friends and associates, from everyone here at the X-Zone, a very happy U.S. Thanksgiving to you, sir.
Thank you, Rob, and you keep doing what you do so well. We so appreciate you being out there in the whole X-Zone Broadcast Network.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Take care of yourself. We look forward to speaking to you before Christmas, because I'm sure we're going to have to remind everybody what they should do and what they shouldn't do before they start golfing down the turkey.
I'm here to continue to spread the message whenever you need it.
Take care, my friend.
Thank you so much, Rob.
Good night, Doctor. Exonation, Dr. Donald Hayes has been my guest this hour. He's the co-author of E-Myth Nutritionist, www.greensfirst.com. That's www.greensfirst.com. Now, I'll be back on the other side of the commercial break with the news as we continue here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Once again, if you'd like to listen to the X-Zone 724-365, go to www.xzoneradiotv.com. Now, you can also listen on your cell phone, on your landline, however you want to, by dialing 213-401-0040. I'm sorry, 0080. My name's Rob McConnell. I'll be back on the other side of the news. Don't go away.